Welcome to this Prep-It instructional presentation. This is part of a series of presentations on the use of the various features in the PREP Implementation, Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation tool, or Prep-It. Prep-It is a decision-making and analysis tool with several interrelated modules used for target setting, costing, and commodities forecasting. This presentation is the 10th in a series of presentations on the features and functions of Prep-It. Prep-It was designed to be flexible and respond to different user needs. Some users may want to set targets at the national level and may need to disaggregate the results to the subnational level. In contrast, some users prefer to set targets at the subnational level, like a district or county, and then later aggregate them up to national results to the national level. Prep-It allows for both of these approaches. If you plan to disaggregate your targets, you will need to indicate this on the Getting Started section of Prep-It. We suggest you review the Getting Started instructional presentation when you're getting ready to complete the Disaggregate Targets module. In Getting Started, you will need to ensure that you have checked the box to disaggregate your targets geographically and that you've specified your subnational level. Once you've downloaded the template, you need to complete the Subnational Areas tab with the adult population for those over the age of 15 for each subnational area. You will need to copy the yes responses to any new rows you enter in this template to ensure that the template will upload correctly. Once uploaded, then you proceed through the different modules of Prep-It from configuration through the Targets module. After completing your targets, you can move to the Disaggregate Targets tab. Here you will see your total targets, and if needed, you can change the date range. For example, if you've set 2-year targets but only want to disaggregate for 1 year, you can adjust the time period for the year of interest and then click on the Set Date Range button, where it'll turn gray, which is how you know that the date range is properly set. Next, for each method, review the specifications of the sex and age range for each priority population and make any adjustments if needed. Then click Next. When you click Next, Prep-It then takes you to the District Population subtab, where you can select the subnational areas where you would like your targets disaggregated. Select the areas where PREP targets are being set for each priority population. Note that these checkboxes correspond to the yes/nos in the data template that you uploaded under the Getting Started section. If you had a yes for each subnational area, but now only want to disaggregate to some areas, you can uncheck the boxes. In this example, PREP targets are being disaggregated to different couples in all locations, but adolescent girls and young women are only being disaggregated in regions 2 and 4. After selecting the subnational areas, you can see the disaggregated targets in the provided table, and you can use the drop-down lists to view the targets by method and by PREP New or PREP CT. If you need targets in the COP data format, click on the Download Fiscal Year 25 PEPFAR Targets button and save the file to your computer. The next slide will show you a brief demonstration of the inputs and outputs for disaggregation. So here we are on our targets results page where we've set our targets. And now we want to think about disaggregating those targets down to subnational levels. So let's go to the Disaggregate Targets tab. So here we are with Disaggregate Targets. We want to start with the date range. So we have the full target setting period here. But let's say we were interested in only looking at the first year. So let's say this first fiscal year from October 2024 to September 2025. If we were to do that, we want to set that date range. And now that it's turned gray, we know that that date range is set and our targets have been adjusted accordingly. Next, we want to take a look at these by our different PREP methods. And as we do that, we can see that the specifications about the sex, female and male, of the different priority populations and the age ranges that are being included. These are based on defaults for the priority populations. For our custom populations, we may want to adjust this. For example, if instead of fisher folk, I put clients of sex workers, maybe I want to exclude females, or maybe I want to put some sort of age range. But for this example, we're going to leave it as is for both pill as well as for cat. So then we hit next. Here on the district populations page, it's pulling in the information that you uploaded when you were on Getting Started. So remember, on Getting Started, we specified our subnational levels. We put in this case, region and district, but you could have just put in region or just district. And we uploaded a template with the population data for each of the subnational areas of interest. And that's uploaded here. You can see we've calculated the distribution or the percent of the population living in each area in this column. And recall, we had put in yeses for each priority population so that it would upload properly. But now we could, if we decided that we're not going to be disaggregating prep to certain regions or areas, we could use these checkboxes to essentially set those yeses to nos. So for example, let's say we wanted to not disaggregate our AGYW targets in region 2, where let's say HIV prevalence and incidence is very low. Similarly for the other populations. So perhaps our fisher folk are really clustered in the first region. We might deselect these for the other subnational areas. And unclick all the different boxes. It takes a second each time you click. And then you click next. And you can see that your targets have been disaggregated by each subnational area. You can toggle this to look at them by your different methods, as well as looking at Prep New and Prep CT. So those different selections make changes to the table. If you've selected looking at fiscal year 25 and you want your targets in the PEPFAR COP data pack format, you can click on this button here to download that spreadsheet in that particular format. So that is the process for disaggregating targets, and we'll stop there. Thank you. The other approach is to set targets at the subnational level and then aggregate them. To do this, you must run a separate PREPIT application for each subnational area. Given all the different inputs into PREPIT, you need to consider which parameters should be harmonized across all applications and which can vary. In order for PREPIT to be able to adequately aggregate, 3 parameters need to be the same in each application. First, each application should have the same priority populations. If you're not setting targets for a particular priority population in one of your subnational areas, but are in others, include all the populations in all applications, and then you can set those populations or coverage to 0 when they're not being included. Similarly, the methods should include all methods that are being used across all subnational applications, and you can make the adjustments based on availability of the method in each application. Finally, the target setting period should be the same across all applications. Many parameters may or may not vary across subnational applications. These include the continuation curves, the visit schedules, costs, impact factor adjustments, the percent indicated for PREP, the scale-up trends, method mix, coverage percentages, and coverage constraints. Areas that are very likely to vary by subnational level include the population sizes, the program data, and HIV prevalence. For each application, it should be saved as a JSON file in your computer so that it can be aggregated at the next step. Once you're ready to aggregate multiple files, you start by clicking on the Begin button in the Aggregate section of the first page of Prepit. Next, you click on Aggregate Files button and select the JSON files that you want to aggregate and click Open. The results will appear, and you can use the drop-down lists to review the aggregated results for costs, targets, impact, and commodities forecasting. The next slide shows a brief demonstration of aggregating multiple sessions in Prepit. So here we are on prepitweb.org, and you can see the three cards here. We're going to begin with the aggregate card. Click on the Begin button. And now there's only one main step to this. It's to click on this Aggregate Files and then go to the location where you're keeping the files that you want to aggregate. So I've automatically gone there, and I'm going to hold on the Shift button and scroll down until I get all the files I'd like to aggregate, and they're all highlighted. Then I'm going to click Open. Now once they're loaded, we can see our results. We can see by costs, and you can use the drop-down menus to look at different methods if you have more than one method. This example only has the one method. You can go to targets and see the targets now are aggregated across all those that we uploaded. You can go to subnational targets to see how the data at the subnational level, as well as the commodities forecasting. And of course, like all these, you can download by right-clicking, copy all, and taking that information into a workbook of your choice. So that's all we have. Thank you. For more information on these and other functions of Prepit, please join the Prepit community of practice. You can enter questions with the hashtags aggregate and disaggregate so that others can learn from your question as well.